Thank you for coming to our venue panel here at Impact Days. How's everybody's day one? Is anybody hungover? I guess if you're hungover, you probably stay at home. I hope so, anyways. I am Bruce Trujillo. Thank you for coming again. I have been working at Swallow Hill for the past 2 years. I actually just left, and I'm starting my own venture. Big radio background before that, but I've also been booking since I was a teenager. And I'm really excited to talk to our panel today. We've got a lot of people from venues across the Front Range here, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, their venues, and one career highlight, which is probably like the hardest part, the hardest question we have. But we'll start down at the bottom with Eric.
I'm introducing myself too. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I was going to learn from as you came this way. My name's Eric Gilbert. I'm in Boise, Idaho. I helped start Treefort Music Fest there in 2012, and I was a long-time touring musician before that. I played the UMS 4 times before starting that festival. Lisa G was booking it back then. And we recently opened our own venue in March called Treefort Music Hall, so I'm new to venue ownership, and we simultaneously just took over old Shriners Hall, so I went from having 0 venues to 2 double-decker venues, which is a new challenge, but also exciting, and I'm happy to be here.
Career highlight?
Dang it, I tried to get out of it. Well, I really want to say the time I got to play the Mishawaka Ampitheater as a career highlight, so I'm gonna stick to that.
I'm Marc Benning. I have a venue in Manitou Springs called Lulu's downstairs. Also come from the artist side, so it's a very artist-friendly music space, 500 capacity and 125 capacity. Career highlight on this side, having a venue, was Charles Bradley one night, doing a double encore and hanging out with him the rest of the evening, and then Phosphorescent doing a triple encore the night after. Just good music.
That's it. I'm Dani Grant. I own venues on the Front Range and also recently acquired one in South Bay of California, which has been really interesting and fun. And I got into venues because of artist development. I was hoping to find a place to put artists, to take good care of them, and that's how I stumbled into ownership of Mishawaka. So I'm very much also artist forward, and I think it's probably a lot of the people on this panel are that way too, and maybe venue owners in general, because it is a tough gig. But if it makes it for the artists and you see people dancing and smiling, that's what it's all about. And my career highlight would be when South by Southwest gave me a cease and desist letter because the Colorado Music Party was too big for their taste, so it was very good. And then I just have to add on, too, that I saw Not a Toy play a stage yesterday, and they're a band that I've known since they were 14, and it was really a moment for me to see them up there. So.
Awesome. Yeah, we're all friends here. So I'm Paula Vrakas. I am the owner of the Roxy on Broadway here, and then I also own the Roxy in Encinitas, which is just in North County, San Diego. Been doing them both for about 8 years now, and I got into owning music venues. I was a bartender, I wasn't a musician. I certainly wanted to be. I just wasn't very good. But I just have a love of music, and that comes from my grandfather, who is 95 years old. He plays jazz clarinet. He still plays out. And he grew up playing with Les Paul, and they were kind of best buds and hanging out, and that's kind of where I got my love of music and jazz specifically. We're not a jazz venue by any means, but it is my soft spot. And that sort of ties into my career highlight. I was fortunate enough to get my grandfather on a plane, and I flew him out to San Diego, and I put him on stage with a jazz band that plays in San Diego, and I watched my, at the time, 93-year-old grandfather just absolutely wail on this clarinet, and it was the most touching and that moment where you're like, all right, I made it, So that's mine.
I love that. Thank you all. So I'm going to try and make sure we have time at the end for any questions. I've done a couple of these panels before where I'm talking to venue owners, but there's only venue owners in the audience, so it's a bit of a different conversation. I've been asking different musicians over the past 2 days kind of what they want to get out of this panel. So if I miss something, we'll have question time at the end. But one that keeps popping up, what is the best way to get the venue to notice a new artist who wants to play your venue? We get bombarded with emails all the time, of course. So what is the the trick that gets you to notice somebody the fastest? And maybe after this follow-up, what is not the best way to get noticed?
I'll go ahead and go first on that. I think for one, it's okay to send follow-up emails. That's actually a way to respect the person that you're emailing that you know gets lots of emails. Maybe space them out at least a week apart. Also, especially if you're booking a venue in your own town, show up to the venue, go to shows. Like, just be part of the community. That's the best way to get noticed. So.
Yeah, I think definitely being part of the community, taking your time, getting in there, and there's just some there's some structure to it. There's some, there's some humility that you have to approach it with. I mean, what does your band really have at this point? If it's just a demo and you don't have a lot of shows, and if you're approaching a hard-ticketed venue, that's a really tough sell. We will get back to you to support, but that's probably the only opportunity we have right now, or we'll build in some local shows. There's some showcases, but it's going to be up to the venue to really see that and when there's value for that. I think finding the coffee shop and finding some of the places that may not appear as cool is what some other places might be, is really the route to take, and it's kind of a rung of ladders, and you slowly do this and you grow from there. You get to the next rung, you grow from there, and it's a lot of no's, but if you're persistent, I think it works.
Yeah, I was going to say, too, do the work. That's the best way organically to get a show at a venue is don't worry about playing the little show, sell the little show out, grow too big for it, and then be able to share that, have a concise way to share with the venue. Here's what I've done, here's what I can bring, and you want me to play your venue, and then follow through. I think you'll play again and again, and don't be a jerk. That's a great way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I think what these guys said is all very good. If you're local, come out, show up. But I think, there's some, I'll touch on some things that you shouldn't do. Send an email to the right email, right? Don't, do the work. Make sure that you're sending the email to the email that is actually where it's meant to be, right? Mm-hmm. If you're looking to get booked, it's always on our websites. Do the work to find that out. Send in demos. Send in links to your Spotify, links to your SoundCloud. Don't just send us an email asking how to get booked, because that shows us that you haven't really done this before. So those are just some very simple things. But then, again, be okay with us saying no. Follow up with us, not the next day, not 2 days later, not incessantly. We're busy. We're booking a lot of shows. And so it's good to just give us a little bit of grace in that and know that we will get back to you because we love musicians and that's what our job is, right? But we may not be able to get back to you in the quite quickest time.
Paula, what's the value in an electronic press kit in booking?
I mean, I think all of us probably have a little bit of our own kind of style of doing things. I learned very on that what is in an electronic press kit is not necessarily what you will see. Mm-hmm. And both of my venues are on the smaller scale in comparison to these guys. Our San Diego location, we don't even do ticketed events. It's all free to the public, and here we only do ticketed 2 nights a week. So I think I like to do a little bit of FBI agent style stuff. So send me a couple of your links, and then I'm going to go out and I'm going to find your information. So press kits are great because it gives you the lineups of what you're going to look for, but I always go even deeper than that and further than that. I don't need them personally, but they are nice. It's a one sheet.
Does anybody else have preference on kind of what is within those, EPK or nah?
I don't need them at first. I have a way that I can kind of suss out the value of a show. I think it's a little strange that bands are putting a lot of time into that, so it's almost a little bit of a red flag. You're a new band and you're kind of putting a lot of energy into something. I'm kind of maybe that's a cart before the horse a little bit. That being said, once the show's booked, it's great to have access to that, because then I can go get the buyout, I can get a photo without having to track it back down. So I think there's some value there, but up first it still goes back to doing the work. And then the last thing from the last question, I just have to say this, because my biggest problem with this is playing too much in your community. Oh, it's killer. We want, as a venue, if you're going to support, and support means we want some support for the show, we want some value. If you're playing for free, or you're playing the day after, like 5 times a month, it just really decreases your value. So figuring out ways to kind of get your momentum going without playing every show that's offered to you, because people will offer you shows because they want to have entertainment. So
Yeah, you need to create some like anticipation to get the audience out for sure.
Real quick on the EPK thing, sometimes we just get these like one sheet things that look all fancy and stuff. If I can't click on anything, it's just like, it's not useful. I would much rather just a simple, straight to the point email and a couple links. Like a link tree is great. A link tree is great. And then I'll choose which links that I want to look at. And yeah. So on that note, yeah, don't spend so much time and money on whatever those glossy things are. And then, yeah, go, did you have, yeah.
Pretty.
Yeah, yes.
Good.
But they are more often a red flag than, to be honest with you, they're actually counterintuitively like not a good look. But and then about playing too much, like I think it's really important to put your, like artists need to understand, as much as we're like artist development fans and we're artist fans and we want to help them develop, like the symbiotic relationship between venue and artists is that we need crowds in the venues so the venues can sustain their existence so they can provide space for artists. So when you email a venue, know that that's your role in that's what you are playing a role in that relationship, and we take ownership over getting people to come see you, but you need to also own that. And a big part of that is once you are booked with us, we don't want to find you on the calendar 3 days later at a show down the street. I mean, that means you're not thinking about your role in that relationship. So the best thing you can do is show us with your email that you understand that that's your role in the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Dani, do you have anything? Oh, well,
Just real quick to add to that, one thing that we get in emails a lot, and you guys probably see this too, is over guesstimating your guest count. It is actually going to make you look worse if you say you're going to have 100 people show up and only 50 people show up. Just be honest with us. It's not going to make us book you or book you. It's just going to make us book you in a realistic spot that works for you.
One more thing to add on, and then is, so, sorry, to that. So I book a lot of small venues too. I've historically done that. We have 1,000 cap now too, but I would much rather you email me about specific like shows you want to support. Like, give me an idea of where you think you fit, and then we can look at that, as opposed to, like you said, how do I get booked? And then that's when you can really start proving your worth. Bring 30 people to that show that you support, as opposed to think you can try to sell out the room, right? And really do the work as a support band.
Yeah, I want to add too that there's a mystery that needs to be unveiled here a little bit, which is that we have a lot of control over who plays in front of national acts. And I think 10, 15 years ago, I was much more successful bringing locals in to play in front of national acts. Now, a lot of managers and agencies come with a roster of bands, and they've got their first of three, their direct, and their national touring together. So while you may think, oh, they just announced this show, and they didn't announce an opener, that's because they haven't figured it out yet, but they're going to maintain control in that. So Mishawaka's a little more fortunate because we have long shows, because it's a whole day trip, and we want to have at least like 4 hours of music for you, so we can oftentimes talk the nationals into letting us have a local. But there's that going on too. So I think even maybe getting creative and thinking of like, hey, can I put a package together with a couple different, good bands that will really hustle and bring some people in, and I can do it on a night that they're, that doesn't have something yet and it's got a 5-week lead, and I could jump in there. So being creative about how to figure out how to support a venue with your, other bands that you play with is good, and understand that we may also, like, let's say I submit you to play in front of a national. Don't go book a show after I submitted you, because they will wait till the bitter end to approve you, because they're going to try and find someone that's on their roster first. So it might be 2 days before that you get on that show. But if you've already booked another show and you're out, and then I have to go back to the national and be like, oh yeah, that band I was pushing so hard for 6 weeks, they booked another show. So that's another good tip.
Yeah, those nationals that we have to submit, like, this is who we think is going to be great, and they have to approve it, and oftentimes they'll go through like 5 or 6 bands before they approve somebody, or they'll say, oh, we're going to bring our own person. So that is difficult.
It's destructive to our scenes too,
Yeah.
because we know, especially, it tells you how many venues out there don't care that much, so they're just kind of maybe putting bad shows together, so that's the norm, or that used to be the norm. I think in this room, if you're a curator and you're trying to build a show, really think I do know what's best for the show. So to get a no is something that's really frustrating. It's so frustrating. And I have this conversation with agents all the time. It's like, I fucking know my room. I know my people. This band is good, but they're good as first to three, and they're not going to add any value to this. So I think a lot of us are trying to get more control over what that bill looks like, but it's an old-fashioned rule, and it's in place.
Yeah, it's getting worse because they're getting more greedy about where, who's playing when.
And I do want to clarify, I asked the EPK question because yesterday in this room we were talking about radio EPKs. That's still very important. Do put an EPK together for your radio campaign. I was also talking with an underage artist who wants to play more. They're getting their feet wet. They are also very good. They are getting attention, but that doesn't mean that they're going to get booked in all venues. How do underage artists get booked in local spots that are not all ages?
I can say it's really a bummer because I'm just going to be honest, we sell drugs for a living. We are selling alcohol to people. That's what a venue does to make money. And an underage show is a tricky situation for a venue owner, even though all of us know that growing those underage, fan bases and that is like super huge. So it's a tricky thing. I think we've got our first Larry's my venue has 21 and up. I can't have underage people there, which is interesting because it's a bummer.
Yeah.
But I think trying to work with that and combining it with things that are underage and 21 and over, trying to be mindful of that. I love the young kids shows, and lots of venues charge more for the kids to come. It's $20 for 21 and up, and $30 for someone under 21, which I get, but. It's a tricky situation, but that's unfortunately how venues are generating an income so they can keep the stage open. It's something I struggle with all the time.
Yeah, we actually took the award, Westward's Award for Best All Ages Venue last year, which is, but awesome. It's tough, though, because we make our money on drugs. And if you can't drink them, then we have less money. So what we've kind of pivoted. We opened a speakeasy in our basement, and that allows for us to be able to have sort of more intimate shows, and kind of do a full show that's 21 and up upstairs, and then our underagers are downstairs. But I think the other thing is sharing a bill, like you said, with other bands that are of age. But I just think for these young bands that are coming out, just don't get discouraged. Just don't get discouraged. It sucks. It's unfortunate, but just don't get discouraged. Keep going.
Are we going to be doing daytime shows with underagers? Have you tried that?
No, I thought about it. We're sort of blessed by having so Nathan, who's here, and I started this nonprofit in Boise called Boise All Ages Movement Project, trying to open up more all ages spaces because our festival would open them up temporarily. Luckily now we have a small cap all ages we're working with and some medium cap stuff. So, but historically, I've put young kids on bills at bars because it's such a crucial part to developing a scene. You need those young people to feel like they have buy-in to the scene at some point. Granted, now their friends can come and it's not great, and the people at the bar don't really like it when I do that. But
yeah, bartenders aren't happy then.
Anything else for Lulu's or? No, perfect. And I think we all agree for sure. We're here for artist development and we want to support them. So kind of combining those two questions, what are some creative ways that you have been able to do artist development in the past, whether they're underage or not, brand new to the scene, they just sound amazing and you want to get them in front of folks. What have you done creatively to do some artist development in the past?
What did you say?
Well, we had a nonprofit for years that developed artists. It was really, and we did a lot of work with cities. So we did a lot of work partnering with cities across the country to get their developing artists to work with our developing artists. It's something that, fan bases, sharing fan bases, growing people. And then just, I think people in this industry are really willing to talk to artists. Like, you call me or you email me and you want to have coffee, I'm going to say yes. It might not be this week, but I'm going to say yes because I want to talk to you. I want to know what you think and what you're doing, and I like to help people do better in the career. So I think reaching out, asking people for their advice, asking for what they think you should do, and then also get outside of the venue a little bit too and start thinking about community events or, city planned things. And I'm not talking about the turkey leg, thing. I'm talking about like more DEI and, DIY events that are happening around town, trying to maybe create those for your city.
We try to keep our doors open for people to approach us with ideas. We do a lot of community events, donate to a lot of schools, and so we just try to always stay open to saying yes to things that we think are cool. That's the great thing about having a big space. Developing bands, I think it's just giving opportunity but it goes back to the work. It's like you still have to be kind of part of the pocket, but we want to support, and we want to stick with your band. And like, we want you to come in and we're like, we love your music, fuck yeah, let's do this. And then we want to work together and really develop that. It is it does feel like there's, immediate gratification is bigger now than I remember it starting in a band. It feels like, it's tough to get that buy-in back, but we just keep trying. We just keep saying yes when we can.
Yeah. Anything else on that? All right, perfect. That's great. Yeah. I also have heard quite a bit. We see, as usual, more white men getting booked quicker, earlier in their careers, more often. So I see BIPOC, I see femme, I see especially BIPOC femmes, queer artists not getting booked as much. They have just the same following, they have just the same drive, even more because they have to. How do we change that to where we're getting more of these artists on stage and it's not just the same white guys up on stage again and again and again?
I can tell you what we try to do. So we set a target and we actually track that information, and I actually have a way to show my buyers what they're doing, which is sometimes it's not apparent, right? They put out 100 offers. Even if 50% of those are women and BIPOC artists, who drops into the calendar, right? So I think it's pushing ourselves to have accountability, track those things, report to the team what we're doing well and what we're not doing well. And I think they start to think about it more. They're like, oh, I could have either one of these shows. I'm going to give this first hold because I would really like this to be a woman or BIPOC fronted band, and I think it's the awareness. It's until you see how bad it is at your own venue, you don't even realize it. But we track it all, and it's tough. And I mean, we're in Colorado. This is a tough, bluegrass and jam bands, like that's a white man all over it, so we really have to dig, especially, Mish, that's where people are coming to see a lot of that. So you also have to invest in it. Right, like, because world bands, things like that might not sell tickets, New Orleans brass bands, which I love, but we have to really kind of go out to our customers, our fans, and say, hey, come try this out, come see it, and maybe invest a little bit more in it to help build it. Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to fully pass the buck to the other side and say, I think this might be representation. Because there's no way in our booking that we would look at anything different, but the quantity of things that come across my email and the quantity of people represented by agents, which are mainly white men, are white bands, So I really feel like representation to get a voice and, to get support and branching out into a bigger community is really lacking. I didn't really think about that until you asked that question of like, why am I not? It's definitely not an intentionality. In fact, I feel like I look to be as diverse as possible with our programming. But I know for sure if I went through my email right now and just did a numbers study on it, it would be 85% white male-driven white person band, unfortunately. And that's the people that obviously are, keeping that going.
Agree with all that. One of the benefits that, and it was an early intention with Treefort Music Fest, that we do have an artist development, like a discovery style festival that gives us the opportunity to really platform folks that aren't selling tickets yet from all. So luckily we have that, and we've been able to put a lot of, and I think like Dani was saying, it's mindfulness first. Like you just have to find the awareness, and it's always shocking to me when I see things out there. I'm like, how can you still not know this?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really shocking. But what was I? And then. Yeah, I think it's just you have to invest in it. But to your point, one thing I actively did with the festival is I actually found there's at least one boutique agency that is completely like trans ran, and there is a boutique agency that was all like women of color ran. And to your point, their rosters were considerably different. So yeah, so that's, I think, because I love working with boutique agencies a lot for a lot of reasons, because I think underrepresentation shows up in a lot of different different lenses, and so that's why I like working with different small agencies.
Treefort's like the most diverse festival I have ever been to. It was the most pleasing thing to go to. It was incredible. You guys work hard and do well.
And then as we're going out, and I think this is especially a good spot for opening slots, but I think to your point also, even when I have an opening slot that may be available, it's generally the same, we'll say 15 white male artists that are reaching out like, I would be great for this, I would be great for this. And I don't get that from BIPOC, femme, queer artists as much. So be loud, please. I'm just gonna add that, like, keep putting your name out there, because we do wanna book you and we do want you on there, but we have 15, 20 male artists for every one, maybe sometimes. It's wild. And they are convinced that they are the right opener for a black woman. So, yes. And so as we've got a show booked. We've got an awesome queer BIPOC femme playing at our show. What's the next step in marketing? What's the next step in making sure that room is filled on our end and on the artist's end? How are we working together collaboratively? How are we collaborating out in the community to make sure that that room is filled and it's a good night for everybody?
Specifically on this one show, is that what you're saying? Like, how do we work on this particular show?
On a
That's
show.
the
We'll just say any show.
But that's the
really.
criteria?
Yes.
Partnerships, definitely partnerships, you know. You have to reach out to anyone that wants to be a part of that should be a part of that. So I don't see, collaboration is like the most underused vehicle that we have in this business. So I would reach out, and I do it all the time. Like, what do you want to do to support the show? Do you want to be involved? Do you want a table? Do you want to just help support it? Do you want, you know, so it's pretty simple. And I feel like that shouldn't be much different for this show compared to any show. It should always be kind of the same thing. We're just trying to connect the dots on how to get people there to enjoy this experience. So I don't think that I would approach it much different. Maybe just the emails would be to different people because of this situation.
I sort of have a question, because it's something we've been thinking about doing more, and is, if you guys do this, when booking a local, I'd love to I've been talking to our marketing team about this, of having like really clear, like, here's what we expect of you and here's what we're going to be doing. Because I think there's just a big gap in the communication between venues and artists. We come out of the touring world where there's just like all this unspoken ethics about what you do as an artist. Like, you don't leave before the last band, but no one tells you that. It's just like you have to learn it through osmosis or something. And so I'm curious if any of you do that. Do you have like a clear?
We have a pretty clear email that goes out to every artist that lays out a whole lot of stuff. I don't know how much gets read or how often it gets read, so read your communication, especially if you have a venue that's really reaching out to provide you with opportunities in marketing and socials and that kind of thing. And I'd say we go after the target market for any band all the same, right? So we try and really understand who the fan base is to try and reach out to that fan base for that artist and partner with them and create opportunities. And I'm always like, okay, if this is like a 50-year-old lady in Tevas or Birkenstock show, like, where are they? They're at the farmer's market. Let's go there, So just thinking about who they are and where they are and, trying to reach them. Because I think you can sell out a show as long as everybody who wanted to see that show knows it's going on, right? That's what marketing is. So how do you find them?
What can artists do specifically to help their own show? I feel like I've also been in the boat where it's like there's nothing until 2 days before, and it's like, we've been pushing, we've been putting money in, we've been doing paid ads, we've been doing all of these things, and then the artist's like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm playing this in 2 days, but I've got my album release show in 3 months, and that's been the thing. So what are the artist obligations after they're booked?
I think first and foremost, all artists need to understand that we're trying to work together, right? This is a partnership between the venue and the artist, as well as your fans and your people. So we're doing our due diligence to make sure that we've got a safe space for you to be performing in. You need to do your due diligence back to us. And I think that sort of rooted in ingrained will ultimately just like, oh yeah, I should post about this venue because they did book me, right? They're taking a chance on me. I need to help them and getting people in. aside from reading your advance, I don't really know how else you make, advances don't get read, at least not majority of the time. But it's in the advance. Please post. Please print posters. All those things. So read your advance, and remember, we're all just here trying to make music happen. Music makes our soul smile. So let's just all work together to make it bigger, right?
I think another thing to keep in mind is we have, in some cases, 7 shows a week, right? And we do care. But you have that one show at our venue in that month. Hopefully, only that one show. But so you're going to be if you're being a really good partner in that, you also empathize with the fact that we're trying to promote a lot of shows simultaneously, and we can do as much as we can do, but we really need you to help with the focus on your one show. So.
And it'll pay off. So if you bring the people, you will play again and again and again. So and get paid more and more. Yeah.
We get a lot of contracts and specifics from bands and their management and their booking agents. And I'm really working on coming on the other side of that, and we need some specifics back, especially in this day and age, with phones and everyone's distracted and no one's really looking at what's happening locally. We have access to everything. We can be watching anything at any time. So to track with the shows that are going on, now more than ever, we need to collaborate. The bands have to be part of that as much, if not more. And I don't want to take away from our responsibility, and we can keep doing that, but if we're going to have 800 bands come through our doors in a year, it is really hard for us to be specific with you. Doesn't mean we don't care. Doesn't mean we're not going to try, but we're really going to look for the window, and then we're going to do our best. But with the distractions out there, we really need to collaborate better.
Can I add one more thing?
Please.
So I think another way to look at it too is, and we see really good artist management teams that are doing this, and so I think it's important if you don't have that, it's really, we're all in the hard ticket business, so I feel like we're only talking to that side of this, but sometimes it comes up about artist pay, and there's only so much you're going to get paid to support a show. It's also good for you to know that budget is dictated by the other artists on that bill more than the venue. So your goal should be to develop your hard ticket business as a headliner. So your strategy around supporting shows should be leaning toward then selling out small venues on your own. That's how you're going to grow your own business and be able to demand more money for yourself, not by just being abstractly better. You really do need to just show that sales track record. And so that's what a lot of national tours, they're purposely playing smaller rooms, trying to sell out the whole tour, and then scaling up, and so understand that. And they put in a lot of energy, a lot of their own marketing money into each market. So I think it's great when even we have some local artists, if they're playing a show, they're spending $50 to $100 on social media ads of their own to build their own brand and build their own ability to sell tickets. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay, we're going to take a nice turn into COVID land, because this is, I know, I'm so sick of hearing about it, I'm so sick of talking about it, I'm so sick of thinking about it, but we're still dealing with it, and there is no magic wand that's making anything better. So every conversation I've had about this, again, has been with venue owners, but I've had artists ask, is there anything that we need to know that we could be doing better? And I don't even know the question or the answer to that question either, because there is no solution that we have right now that's what's bringing audiences back, what's doing this, what's doing X, Y, and Z. So what have y'all found, any sort of pattern, I haven't, into opening back up post-quarantine that maybe artists don't know about? It's a hell of a question.
Stumped every single person.
I'm stumped, and that's why I'm asking it.
I think I'm still trying to figure out what the actual impact is right now, because we had this huge surge after COVID of everybody and their brother wanting to tour, right? So then it was like garden hose, fire hose, but and now things have calmed down. The good news, I'll be very optimistic. We love live music, rubbing shoulders, sweating, screaming next to each other, that's what we love, right? We're gonna do that as people forever and ever and ever. So it's gonna keep happening, but I think, right now I'm seeing ticket prices go way up, and I just see it locking people out of shows. And so I don't know when that tipping point is going to be that we get back to bringing the price of shows down and trying to get more people out. But I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing less and less people. Granted, the artists need to be able to survive on tour, right? Inflation, all the things. I could go on and on about why this is happening, but there's got to be a point where something breaks and we can get back to access, because I think that's why we're seeing less people come to shows, because they're having to pick. I can only go to 5 shows because it's all $180 with the fees. So which 4 shows are those going to be? It's a bummer, but yeah. So we need to be careful, work on ticket prices, I think.
Well, and I think, can we dive into ticket prices a little bit? Because even, I had the pleasure of doing the Denver Botanic Gardens shows this year, but it was like, to make it work, those tickets had to be $70 to $100 a piece. And that's without fees. Those shows don't have fees, which is great, but that goes to the artist, that goes to production, that goes to all of these things. What maybe are artists not seeing in a ticket price, especially these days, that maybe is kind of surprising? Yeah.
Well, there's obviously big talk around ticketing reform, which I think is important. I also think higher ticket prices is also okay. I think they were historically low for beginning, especially bands paid and venue survival. I think it may be with the rest of the world, like it's an inflation-based thing. But I also think it's important for taking out the fees conversation and everything else, like, 'cause just to set that aside for a second, the best way to get an artist paid and to support an artist is to buy a ticket. That's the best, and like most of the ticket money is going to the headlining artist. Is a good thing to understand. So I sometimes I just get rubbed the wrong way about some of that conversation, because it truly is just it's growing the pie for that ecosystem to better work. And I do think normalizing. I mean, people pay a lot of money for a lot of things, so that's kind of where I'm at a little bit. And I think that we need to clean up some of the junk fees and all the stuff that some of us were just at Capitol Hill a couple weeks ago, lobby around fix the ticks. But I do think, like, when it comes down to face value of the ticket prices, let's find a good balance with it. But yeah.
Dani.
I'm a supporter of raising ticket prices. I think the value, what's a movie? A movie's $15. I think a band should never be less than $15. I think if it's a small show and there's 4 bands on the bill and you're trying to do a $10 ticket, and then at the end of the night everyone gets $62, and you're like, I can't pay you out of the bar. That's not fair. Like, I could list my expenses. It's not gonna. It just can't. It can't happen. I also think, like, there's a mental health component of this. I think people are comfortable at home, man. They're not as comfortable in public spaces. So that with money, it's definitely it's a trick right now. How that's going to change, I don't know. Because I think we kind of slid out. I was thinking about this on the drive up. It's like we kind of just came out of COVID really, like, haphazardly. Like, we had that one moment, like, oh, it's over, we're going to open, we're pumped, and then it's like, oh, here comes another thing. So it's kind of like our car's been broken and we're trying to fix it and not really sure if it's fixed yet. That's how I feel. Like, I can't tell. Our numbers are good sometimes and they're bad, and I don't know what that means. I do know that if we make each show an event, and that comes from all of us in the room, then people get excited about it. But if we're just like, this is a great fucking band, everyone's gonna come, it's like, that's just not the way it is anymore, because there's too many choices at home. So whatever the show is, make it an event, put your best foot forward, and don't play too much.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a unique situation because we do so many shows that are not ticketed, and even when we do tickets, they're a lower, cost, and 100% of it goes to the artists. For now, as costs get a little higher, we're probably going to have to change that. But what I have noticed, and I think the positive, COVID sucked, just absolute trash. I have noticed a difference, though, since Christmas in this state. And I think people are starting to come out more. We'll have hit or miss weeks, right? One week we're like, whoa, where were all these people last week? And then the next week it's like, where'd they go again? And I do think that has something to do with just not necessarily even tickets, just cost in general, because you're paying for the drinks and you're paying, all of the costs associated with going to see this music. I do think it is a part of it, and fees are something that need to be fixed. But I think it's honestly more about this culture of, like, staying in now. And I remember you guys probably did it too. We were changing around what set times were and if they were going to start earlier or later because people were in and not out. And it's really just been a matter of, like, let's try it. Let's throw it at the wall and see if it sticks, The other thing, though, that is interesting, and I know you guys have seen this too, a lot of those musicians that used to play before COVID, that were all over, that had huge draws, and, like, these massive bands have moved, have split up, have had families, just aren't playing out as much as they were. And so what we're starting to see now, and what I think has been cultivated over the course of the last 2 to 3 years, is these artists that are up and coming are now starting to really get their feet underneath them. They're starting to grow this amount of people around them. They're starting to have a following and starting to be able to sell out these venues and things. So I think that the horizon is visible, and I think it's only up from here, but it's still somewhere we're stuck in.
I think a solution too is really working hard to develop your local music scene, right? And creating those packages of local music and getting customers in to see those new bands and getting your, trusting your curation and that kind of thing. I think that's a way to bring more access and maybe not have a huge ticket price and still get people paid. Like that's the combination is something I'm working on.
Yeah. Awesome. Let me know when you figure it out.
Yeah, same. So we don't have any answers on COVID. Sorry, guys. Tweak what?
Question and talk about with disabilities and how we. So can I ask the question or should I wait?
You can ask the question now because we're on the topic.
Okay, so the question is, you probably all work with artists with disabilities. What's one thing that worked? Like, what's one thing you can share where you have met an artist need around their disability, and what's one challenge? And the thing about what you can say about the challenge is you can't just say it's expensive. You have to actually explain the challenge.
All right, so to repeat the question, working with artists with disabilities, what's been a success and what's been a challenge outside of money?
Well, structurally, my building is very old, and we have a freight elevator that was out of service for about 30 years. So we didn't have that, nor did we have to. Technically, we were allowed to operate without that to get downstairs, so we got that fixed. So that was a challenge, but it was doable, and we got it. We got the city to sign off, and we're good to go. I don't know that there's too many other challenges to say yes and be accommodating. So I don't have like a field of like, oh, that sucks. That's really hard. So I don't know. I wish I had more. Oh, I'm glad I don't have more, I think. So.
I mean, there's a couple of things coming to mind. I kind of almost just want to pivot back to COVID briefly because as annoying as that is, I think it is. There are still artists touring right now that either have someone that is immunocompromised in their band or otherwise, and we still, it doesn't happen like it did, but there are requests to request that of an audience, and I think that's kind of where things are at right now, and in a lot of cases their audience might be more sensitive to that too, and it's more challenging than it was when there was like county-wide things, but those are efforts that we have put in place even as recently as May, and so I think that's an ongoing challenge I think we're going to continue to face, and especially with a customer base that's kind of forgotten about it for the most part. And at the very least, back-of-house accommodations are common, and we were able to kind of accommodate the public not having to engage in it as much, but it was pretty easy, obviously, for the rest of us to put masks on again, so yeah.
I mean, the biggest challenge with any sort of is my building. I've got hallways that are not 30 inches wide. I've got staircases, I've got to our green room. I've got all that's just, short of bulldozing a building, you just have to work around it, right? So we just do the best that we can, as does any venue, I think, that exists. But, I was fortunate enough at our San Diego location, and I booked this individual without having any idea about disability, and quite frankly, disabilities to me are an asset. I think people with disabilities always have a stronger sense of something else, which is really magical. And this individual was blind and deaf and played the most incredible piano I've ever heard in my life. So I think one of the successes to having musicians or talent on stage, and guests as well, that have disabilities is just getting them to, seeing their potential and getting everyone else to see it too. Just giving everybody else that opportunity to sort of whoa, that's dope,
I think we've had a lot of success because we're always advancing, acknowledging, and working out in front of things to make sure that there's no accessibility issues. And I think that's with fans, with customers, ticket buyers, and artists. Getting that communication up front is always so helpful. I'm challenged because I am a non-conforming use in a canyon run by FEMA and the Forest Service, and they don't allow me to make repairs, right? Like there's this weird rules. So I would love to see more flexibility from cities and counties to give us permitting access and to give us the ability to do things and not take a year. Maybe some support financially would be fantastic. But, trying to like really get assistance. We could be here trying to, like I tried to put a ramp in. It took me 8 months to get a permit just to put and I was too close to CDOT's highway, with what else? So I think getting some support from cities and counties and states would be fantastic.
All right, we've got not a ton of time left. I got a few more questions, then I do want to open it up. Night of show. How do artists show up?
On time.
And being on time
and
is actually being early.
if you're not going to be on time, which is a totally realistic situation, traffic sucks, wherever you're coming from, call. You have hounded us for all of our details, and you've hounded us for our guarantees and all the stuff. Just tell us you're going to be late. Especially as a new band, you will rise to the top if you do like basic shit. Put up some posters, post on your social media, show up on time, play your set the appropriate amount of time, get off stage quickly. It's such a simple game to rise above to a good level. You actually don't have to be the best band to become a big band by just doing basic things, right?
Period.
I'd say also, we know it's a fun party. Like, you get to play the Mish, you're pumped. Don't bring 50 friends who get wasted and wreck your whole reputation for that. Really be thoughtful. Real friends buy tickets to your show, by the way. The ones who don't, who are demanding extra beer from the poor intern who's running by, and they're like, who are you? Like, are you with the band? So I think just think about it as a business. I know it's a party, it's super fun, and you can have fun. Maybe leave one sober person to settle for the professional ending of the night, but I think about what you're doing there and how you're doing it, and treat it like a business opportunity that you can have fun at.
Clean up your trash. Just clean up your strings. We don't want them.
I've also been having this conversation and hearing this conversation a lot on merch. Do any of you take a cut of merch from bands?
I do not. But I may, up until we make our guarantee back. And then it's 100%, not including that. So if it's a $1,000 guarantee and we're coming up short $400, maybe we will, and I'm not sure about this yet, it doesn't feel good to me, but it makes a lot of sense. If we're gonna take a big loss, but we've provided the space to sell all this merch, maybe we can justify some income there. Once we make our guarantee, then it's 100% to you.
Yeah, I do only on soft goods, never on artist music, and I only do it over a certain dollar amount, right? And the reason why I do it is because it's not really a profit center, but I have a lot of people assisting the band selling merch. I've got people dedicated to selling. I've got people who are helping put up the stuff. I'm buying merch stuff for them to. So yeah, I do take a cut, and I think it's rationally justified. I don't like to do anything off their music because I think that's not cool.
I think that's fair. If you've got your staff doing the work, then I think it's fair to take a cut. We don't do anything. I'll give you a table and a tablecloth, and you do the rest. So we also don't take any
Tablecloth, that's...
I know, it's fancy. We're fancy down at Roxy,
We don't take a cut, except there's one exception at the festival we do. There's a main stage, and we actually give them the option. You can give us, I think it's 20%, and we'll sell it for the whole weekend, or we give you a table and a tablecloth, and you can do it at 100%. So that's the only exception. Yeah.
Awesome. And is there any other sort of like, I can't think of anything, but I've heard horror stories of just like hidden fees that maybe artists don't know about that we would work with. I mean, I feel like as independent venues, I don't really work with that much. The what?
When write your deal with the venue. I mean, I think first things first, get a clear understanding of what their expectation is, and lots of venues won't give a contract to a band that's not represented. That's BS. You should ask for a contract, even if it's an email list of what's happening and what the charges are. They should be coming up front with that. I've worked in rooms where, you know, owners have forced facility fees, which are money that comes out of the artist's pocket per ticket. And many artists don't understand what that is. They think facility fee, they're like, oh, that's a fee that's tacked on after. But I think you need to understand what the venue's gonna do up front. You need to have that information, and when you go to your show and you play your show, have that conversation before you play, and then double check at the end you get what you deserve. But yeah, there are some fees like that. And also consignment tickets. Consignment tickets are great for an up-and-coming band. I think they're wonderful. Don't poo-poo the consignment opportunity. Use it as a tool to show the venue how hard you work, how many people want to come see your show, and use that opportunity of a fee-free ticket for your fans. But don't ever just pay for those tickets. 2 reasons. One, the venue doesn't want an empty ticket holder, right? We don't want you to pay $500 for tickets and have no one come, right? We got to know who's coming. And the other thing is don't pay venues to play, ever. Don't let them do that to you, and it happens. People try and pull that on you, so know that up front.
Okay, I'm gonna hand it out for questions, but you touched on something, and I want a real basic, quick and dirty. What should go into a contract for an artist?
Really simple. It's like ticket price. What's your percentage cut of that? What's your guarantee? If it's a $25 ticket and you're getting 85% of this, it's like very basic math. At the end of the night, it is such simple math. If there's a tax that comes out, then it's 5%, whatever it is. But that all should be known beforehand, and there really shouldn't be any curveballs. At the end of the night, it should be really clean and easy.
I could send you a blank.
Yeah, it's like it's basic math. There's no squiggly lines or anything. It's just straight up, you know.
We do a very basic advance. It's just an email. It's date you're playing, time you're supposed to get there. It's what our address is we're an all-inclusive, like we're a venue. You do not fuck around with us. You come in there and you're nice to us. You're nice to the people that are there anyway. It's like our guidelines, you know, it's like how to promote yourself with it's got our Instagram tags, it's got like, but it's just, and it's this long on an email. Just the basics of the day. Pay, guarantee, comp tab, tickets, whatever. Just that.
And do ask questions when you get those things if you're unclear on like, are there going to be extra, is there going to be a facility fee? Is there going to, ask those questions. Your venue should be transparent.
You can send them a contract, by the way.
Yes,
Yeah, we'll
I
sign
get
it if we're
many.
good.
Yes.
And be clear on hospitality. Hospitality it gets murky. Just, you know, if it's $100, it's $100, because that is our money. So it's like, if you want to run up a $300 bar tab, that is going to be on you, and that's fair.
Is it $100 cost or is it $100 retail? That's a big difference, right? You're getting $100 at the bar's cost, that's like $350 worth of booze.
Yeah.
So there's questions to be asked.
Yeah. Is it a buyout? Are you getting catering? What are you getting?
Is it a budget or a buyout?
Yep.
But again, that's not murky. I know that's about to happen. We know that that's going to happen before that show's going on. So just be clear and ask questions and try not to take advantage of. I will definitely remember stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not that type of person, but I remember a band that's like ran up a big food tab and dipped out.
Yep.
Because if they ask, they're like, we're starving or whatever. Like they're just like, can we get a discounted food? Can you buy us dinner? Would have been a much easier conversation than like, oh, such and such. They kind of dipped out without saying anything.
Absolutely. All right. I'm going to open up for questions. And if you have a question for this panel, anybody specifically on this panel that we didn't touch today?
I'm sorry I came in late, but I did have a question kind of following up with the ticket price. So maybe you already covered this, but we were talking about ticket prices should be at a certain point, if not raising ticket prices. And I find, at least where I live, there's this like need to reevaluate the value of live music and that experience. So while on the venue side and the musician side, we understand that that's needed, how do you
part of that I did want to comment, but based on what I said, I do think accessibility is an important piece of it, and so I like the idea of subsidizing blocks of tickets for certain groups and stuff like that, while maintaining the value for those that can afford it, right? So I did want to say that. And the way I like to talk to people about it is I think of tickets as crowdsourcing things to like happen. So if you have to pitch in $15, we all pitch in $15 for things all the time. Like if we want this rad band to come, let's all pitch in $15 and we'll make it happen. So that's how when I talk to people about that's how it's like it's crowdsourcing. It's just right. So that's how I like to reframe it, because I think people think that there's a bunch of money on the back end that some cat, I don't know if you guys read Jamie's panel earlier, but she had a cat with a bunch of cash in front of it. So, sorry, that was an abstract reference if you weren't there. But it's just this like myth that there's all this money just being pocketed behind it at these ticket prices. But in a lot of cases, even for the artists that need that much, they're paying a whole staff. I mean, there's people that are it's like working class people getting paid behind the scenes, and so I think it's good to reframe that for folks.
I would also say messaging. Like, I wish there was more messaging to the general public about. I envision, like, when I was doing Spokesbuzz, like, doing, like, a budget of an artist and, like, showing, like, where they live and what kind of car they drive and, like, kind of taking away the glamour of, like, when they get on stage, they look like they're, like, incredibly, like, glamorous and successful and all that, and then they roll out in their 1982 Toyota to, like, their house they share with 7 people, and people just don't get it. They don't know. Yeah, I had the wanna? Okay, let's do it. Yeah. Okay.
I got a lot of photos I can share with that. Really old Subarus and broken down vans. I think it's just, I don't know, again, we're in a unique situation because we have so many free shows. So it's always been my goal to just get music in front of people, even though it's not a very good business model because we just lose a lot of money on that, but at least in the beginning. But, it's just the awareness of, getting music in front of people and making them remember why they love it so much. And I don't know how you put that into like something monetary, like that you can force someone to do. I don't know, COVID sucks.
I just met you today and I like you, but in Boise, my mantra is less free shows. Like, stop setting this expectation with the public that should be what's normal. So I'm sure what your model makes sense, and I'm not dissing, but I'm saying that, like, yeah.
Yeah, we're a restaurant bar with music, not like you guys are a big venue,
I want tickets to be expensive. I think the base ticket should be $20. $20 for a 4-band. I think medium tiered things should be $40 to see Joe Pug in a 300 cap room, easy. Like $25 just doesn't divvy out in this project that we're about to do, which is like showing an artist and like what they're paying. And then I think part 2 should be show what the venue, like what's the venue have to pay? Like, oh, okay, we make all this in ticket revenue, here's our bar revenue, here's all the places that goes. So I think $20, $25 for a ticket makes us feel so much better, because there's nothing that makes me happier. That's not totally true, but writing a big check to a band at the end of the night is great. I love that feeling. I have no problems thinking a 10 grand night for someone is money out of my pocket. It feels great. That means we're going to continue, you're going to continue. So higher tickets all the way.
So more transparency will benefit all of us, is what you're saying. So, I think it'd be interesting.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Easy.
Can we add music licensing fees into that?
Insurance because of Fire Fest.
Yes.
There was a hand up over here. Yeah.
Fabulous conversation. I love the interdependency of the relationship between the artists and the venue owners, and you all are advocates clearly. You also have a new backbone in NEVA, which was catapulted by COVID, and I'm just curious because artists don't have that means of self-advocating really as a body. Are there national conversations that impact Colorado artists that we should be aware of in terms of collective impact at the national level, thinking about this relationship and interdependency of venues and artists? Please say who you are.
Please introduce yourself.
My name's Kirsten, I'm with Sonic Guild Colorado.
I feel like NEVA is a good, I mean, I don't know that, but I feel like you could be involved in NEVA as an artist.
Yeah, correct.
We have somebody from NIVF
We're
here.
having these conversations as venues, but it's so applicable. It is the same team. It's not two teams coming together for one thing. It's like we are the same team 100%. Friction happens, but that happens between teams, so it's fine. So I feel like NIVA if I was still playing in a band, I would dive into NIVA and go to the conference. And Carl is the director, is the foundation director. And he should
I will say, if you are an artist who is interested in this Fix the Ticks bill and in this work right now around more transparency, around getting rid of speculative ticketing, around the things that are hurting independent venues and independent artists, there is an artist letter sign-on that you can bring your artists to, bring your labels and management. I'll say one of the reasons that NIVA was able to be catapulted into the public consciousness with the Save Our Stages Act and Shutter Venue Operators Grant was because so many artists signed up for the Save Our Stages YouTube Festival in the fall of 2020, and it was that artists have an amazing platform. They bring people with them that is part of this ecosystem where the venues and festivals provide the spaces for those people to come together, but this is a mutually interdependent relationship. So yeah, NIVA if you are an independent artist, NIVA and the Foundation, we're here as part of that.
Absolutely. And I know that there are some conferences and stuff too. They're a little bit more individualized, but I'm a member of Folk Alliance, and they send out stuff all the time for artists to take care of themselves, insurance, I'm really amazed because I'm not a musician full-time or anything like that, so I don't know the resources that are out there. But now it's like, oh yeah, there's actually a lot of things that are there for artists, which I appreciate because my partner is a full-time artist, and he does not get health insurance, and he does not get dental or anything like that, and it's expensive.
Yeah.
And now I don't either, so.
I'll say too, I'm a board member on the Northwest Recording Academy, and so that's historically, and it's getting better. I've had my issues with that in the past, but it is kind of the national organization that advocates on behalf of artists. So I assume, is there a presence around here? I assume so. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of, in Boise there wasn't one until
San Francisco
so it's based in
is our
Seattle.
chapter.
Yeah, but oh wow, yeah. It's even, yeah. So that's it's at least what I think there's open ears for an organization like yours to like find a pathway through that too. But they're the ones on Capitol Hill on behalf of like artists and stuff. Yeah, which is an extension of that. Yeah, I don't know that.
And I'm gonna say something that I'm hopeful that NIVA will get back to a little bit more of what they used to do, which was really activate the artists and the venues in a way to support. I feel like it's taken a little bit of a turn and it's kind of grown into some other things, which happens. But I'm hopeful that we maybe get back to what it was really doing, which was so effective and so empowering and like so exciting, and like using that force for good and activating all of us in a way. I think there's been some breakdowns with the statewide and the national, and I'm hopeful that that's gonna maybe resurge. Okay, great. Let me know how I can help.
Yeah. It really seemed like you missed it, but it did seem like the pivot on the nationals was a really nice. Just to briefly on that, it seems like it's kind of taking some shape again, right? So,
yeah. I mean, I think that this realization, especially. So I'm 6 months into the job at the foundation. Stephen Parker is 6 months into the job as the association executive director. Between the boards, between the two of us, and working with the chapter leadership on the state level, really to redefine that relationship so we can set expectations and work together in a meaningful way so that we can advance these issues on the national level, but then also recognize that there's so many things happening at the statewide level and the city level, and looking at where we can provide toolkits and resources so that there's a whole connected chain of things going all the way up.
That sounds really good. And messaging to the consumer, like that's something I think that has been neglected.
Any other questions? I'm going to be at the check-in desk until 5, and if you have any other questions, you can come and talk to me, as long as I can check in artists. Lisa, do you have something else?
I do. I'm just curious in this audience if anyone is interested or does own a venue also. Anyone interested?
You're trying to sell your venue?
You can raise your hand.
Just wondering.
Very fun, you can do it. So my final question, actually, it's hard. My final question, because we do have a lot of, it is difficult. It is a lot of work. I cry a lot. I lose a lot of sleep, but it is fun. What is the thing that keeps you opening your doors and keeps you in this industry? Because it can be difficult on this side.
What is sleep?
Never heard of her. I don't know her.
I don't know what sleep is anymore. I can't give up on the artist. It's as simple as that. If I give up, where are they going to play?
Yeah, I go back to like watching like the fans and seeing how it impacts people and just that tribal thing, and I just like I think I'm addicted to that, and I love to see it happen and watch kids like Jackson and Hudson rip to LTJ Bookham, you know.
It's just what I do. It's it's the same thing I've been doing when I was in a band or was producing records, and now I own a venue. It's like it's the same anxiety as far as being. It's an insecure business because it's so speculative and so up and down, but so much fun, and it is rewarding. But yeah, it's a crapshoot, but I do love shows and I love bringing people together.
Yeah, I'd say all that, and then we're in a growing city in Boise, as you guys know. In a growing city, there's a lot of challenge to accessibility to space. So we just took a downtown big box office depot and converted it into an art space, into a venue. We just helped save an old building, a Shriners Hall, and with that comes a lot of responsibility. It's really hard, but like access for others in the community to space is one reason why we are so committed to it. We're coming from a very scene building perspective, and I know that's where you guys are all like, if we're not doing it, who is going to do it, and is it just going to be another big box store when I would much rather have a music venue there? So
Awesome.
An independent music venue.
Independent music. Yes.
and also to protect from, I won't say it out loud.
Yeah. Yep. We know. We all know. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here for this packed room here. Let us know if you have any other questions. Thank you.